The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The show is sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee, and if you like to attend our meetings, they're the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to find out more about our organization, you can go to nashuagop.org to see our website and learn about the events that we have.
Welcome to The People's View.
Hello, welcome to The People's View. And help me welcome Mary Ellen MacKay and Don Lebrun, both representatives of the House in New Hampshire, and also members of the Hillsborough Executive Committee.
That's correct. Pleasure to be with you, Carl.
Yeah. Thank you, Carl. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to have you here, and we can talk a little bit about two budgets. You guys had to be responsible for the budget of the Hillsborough County as well as the state budget.
That's correct.
And Don, we had a little bit of activity, I guess I would say, before we got into the budget. We had a little change. Mary Ellen became a Republican. She saw the light and came home to be a Republican. Well, that caused...
She certainly did, and we welcomed her.
Right, and but that caused a problem because we had a certain ratio of Republicans to Democrats in the county executive board. So anyway, Mary Ellen was also the, what would we call it, coordinator of the Nashua delegation?
She was chair of the Nashua delegation.
Still am.
And she's still chair.
And that was a 2-year appointment, but that caused a little bit of excitement because now that the Democrats, who happen to be for the city of Nashua, the majority, wanted to name somebody else.
It threw the proportion of Democrats and Republicans a little bit out of kilter, so we had to make some alterations to accommodate that.
Yeah, you're chair of the executive board.
I am chair of the executive council, yes.
And we got, I was on the executive board, but to make it even, I resigned so that Mary Ellen could take my seat and keep the ratio the same.
You did that. You were very gracious in doing that, Carl.
But anyway, Mary Ellen, tell us a little bit about your responsibility as, what did we say, the chair of the
Nashua delegation chair.
Yeah.
The Nashua delegation chair is more like a facilitator. You facilitate between, you're a liaison almost, between the delegation and agencies within the city, the mayor's office, constituents maybe if they come and they ask a question. So what we've been doing is meeting with different entities, different agencies within the city, and having them get to know us as we get to know them. It just makes it easier for people if they know each other, and it's more comfortable. And we get to learn what exactly they do from the inside out, because a lot of times you hear about an entity or an organization, but then when you sit down with them, it can be very different. So it just a contact person, and then you send out the invitations and you help set it up, and then you go from there.
With the idea being that this makes people more familiar with the mechanism that they have to go through if they wanted to work with one of those groups, whatever reason.
Well, we need to gather information so we know what they need and what we as representatives can do at the state level to accommodate their needs for the city.
That's correct. And if you know somebody, if you're familiar with them, it's easier to pick up a phone or to ask somebody something. It's sometimes a little bit more intimidating if you don't know someone. And so we just want to make everything comfortable. We're all here to support the city. And the best way to do that is to be open and honest and friendly. And so that's what we try to do.
What have you had anything planned for the summer or for the delegation?
Yes, I'm working with the Nashua Police Department actually.
Oh, really?
And they're going to host a breakfast for us.
Oh, no kidding.
So yes, I'm working with Deputy Chief Mike Carignan and Chief Andrew Lavoie.
And we want more than coffee and donuts. We want a little bit of a hot breakfast. Want some sausage and eggs and potatoes and,
We can pass along the message.
none
I'll
of that
pass
cheap
along.
stuff.
Oh, Don isn't bashful, is he?
No, that's what I love about him. One of the many.
I'm
things.
hoping the chief watches this so he
Yeah,
can
right.
gets the
He's
message.
probably, if he is, he's laughing, and so is Mike.
Well, that's good. I think that's very worthwhile. Well, we had a very easy time with the budget, though, for the county. Everything seemed to work out fairly fast, so that was the quickest meeting I have.
I understand that was the quickest passage of a budget we've ever had. But the process went fine. We got the budgets from the departments. The commissioners went over the budgets, made their cuts. That was fine, brought it to us. We set up our 6 subcommittees. Our chairs were just absolutely perfect with the way they ran their subcommittees. They made their cuts, and they brought it forth to the entire delegation. And there was basically no negative
objection.
votes.
No.
I mean, everything was unanimous, every department.
If you could have had somebody reading faster, you would have been done 5 minutes.
Probably, but I had to write between motions.
That's right. Well, anyway, that was, so you're running a good executive council there.
It seems to be going really good.
And the county's in good shape.
The county's in very good shape.
And we had good income, as we did in the state.
Yes.
The state's income is, we didn't raise any taxes. In fact, we cut some.
Right.
And we still have more income than we normally do.
Well, we have a $96 million budget in the county. $53 million will be raised by taxes.
Right.
So that's a good budget.
Mm-hmm. And you still have a rainy day fund in the county, too.
Yes, we do.
So that's very good shape. Anyway, talk about the state. That was a little bit more difficult.
That was somewhat stressful at times.
Well, Don, you are also vice chair of HHS, the biggest
47% of the budget is HHS.
That much now, huh?
Yes, and we had to appropriate $33 million to get them out of the hole to finish out the year. And, I would like to know why.
Well, I hope you find out.
As you know, you and I have been looking at the audit books for years. I still can't understand what they do with some of their money. Mm-hmm. It's really a shell game that they play.
Well, it's unfortunate that they have to come back. I mean, this was the third extra dole out of money to them.
Right.
Anywhere we started with $9 million for the heroin epidemic, and then we were in 15 million, and then 30 million.
See, the opioid crisis, right there is a problem. I agree we have an opioid crisis, okay? But we can't just, because it feels good and looks like we're doing something nice, we can't just continue to throw money at different programs for the opioid crisis and never get data back telling us whether this is working or not.
Right.
The only data that we're getting back is from the Safe Station program, and that's working.
Well, that's good.
But we've got probably 15 other programs out there that we just continually throw money at with no accountability. We can't do that. It's not sustainable.
Well, that's been that problem for a long time up there, that we don't keep track of the money and we don't have a system that can just distribute it. If you get the money, it was supposed to be distributed to the police departments. Now, that shouldn't have been a hard job, but they came back 2 months after they got the money and said, well, we only gave away a couple of million. We're having, processes that have to be followed. So there's a big bureaucracy that does nothing but hinder the application of the money that we have.
But to me, the biggest problem is, and this is a Democratic problem and a Republican problem, we are afraid not to throw money at this. We are afraid we'll look bad.
Yeah.
I don't care how bad we look. Accountability is more important than how I look.
Well, that's true, and you want to be effective use of the money.
That's right.
I mean, there's no sense in just having it there or not using it or using it poorly. I agree, the evaluation has to be there. And we do have an audit department that looks at these things and checks every operation there for processes, not just a financial audit. It's a process audit too.
Yeah, but you know how that works. I've got the copy of it out in my book I got for you and I.
Yeah.
And it's been the same since 2004. The auditors recommend corrections, and at the bottom of the page it says recommendation not adhered to. And that's been going on for 12 years, at least.
Well, hopefully we'll have new people around that will make sure that these things are done. I know we have two new heads, but not of your department. So he's still staying. Huh? He has a couple more years on his appointment, I guess.
Yeah. No, I thought when Commissioner Myers came in that things would change, because Commissioner Tumpis left him a mess. I mean, it was a total mess. I figured 6 months' time, he could get his own programs working. It hasn't worked out that way. It's just continued on.
You're on that committee too.
Yes, sir, I am.
And what's your perspective of what's
My
happening?
perspective is when people go to conferences and the state or the organization or your job pays for them, you have to give a report and deliver it once it's over. I mean, if they're going to fund you to do something, you hopefully got something back out of it that you could give. So that's what you're asking for. You're saying, we funded you, we would like that report.
That's absolutely
And that
right.
makes logical common sense. I think that should happen.
So that's not happening, is what you're saying.
I don't know if it is or if it isn't.
In the
I
opioid
can't-
crisis, we know it's not happening.
Yeah.
And it really should. In the opioid crisis, the one thing actually all three of us have done is the legislation to give preference to grandparents in guardianship of children, their grandchildren who are involved in the opioid crisis. Rather than enter into a state agency, you keep the child at home. The parent and the grandparent, which is their parent, come together and make that determination. And they don't have to worry about, is the state going to come and take my child? Is this a fear for me? My child stays in the community, they stay with family, and I can go take care of me. And so that doesn't cost anybody anything. Maybe some time, some love, and it's going to cost the grandparents some funding. And so education around what is available, what can support grandparents, that's all going to take place now because we looked outside the box and looked for a different solution. And maybe that's what we have to do. Look outside the box, look for some different solutions. Also look at the bureaucracy of the entire system. Are there too many players in the middle and not enough players on the ground, reaching out? Because those are the ones. That front line is where you need all the assistance, I think. Not so much in the middle. Maybe on the front line.
I think I heard that comment before. They supervising.
Yes, absolutely. Too much of that. But tomorrow marks a hallmark occasion. Tomorrow, the bill that the three of us were sponsors on gets signed into law by the governor at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Very good.
And we're extremely proud of that.
Tell the people about that bill.
That's the grandparent bill that she was just talking about.
Yeah, and we're first in the nation. First in the nation to have something this concrete. And I'm just thrilled that this is happening, thrilled for the grandparents and the children.
And that's been, since I started 10 years ago, that people were complaining about that. It took 10 years to get
Oh, yeah, it's been at least 10 years. Yeah.
They need a voice.
But it's been done, what did it take, 13 months, maybe?
Something like that.
when we really got into it.
Yeah, and we did.
Well, there are other things that are somewhat similar to that with how they treat the addicts that are trying to recover, too. They're looking for more extended care, whether it's where they're staying or just a home help, that comes in and checks on them. Because once they get them off the drug, they have to keep them off.
Well, that's what the Safe Station program is doing.
Yeah.
And that's why it's working so well. And like I say, we're getting data back on that. They go to the fire station, they report themselves. If needed, they get medical treatment, whatever they need, and they're put in contact with Harbor Homes, who then takes them in, houses them, and gets them into a rehab program.
They do have that rehab programs established now?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the longer term. Is it as long as they need it, or what?
That I can't answer. All I know is they put them into the program and start them in the rehab. How far it goes, I really don't know at this time.
And to get to the issue, as you said, that they needed more people with feet on the ground, they put in, what, another dozen
Beds?
what you call, yeah, no, not the beds. I'm talking about the aid for children.
The workers.
Oh, the
yeah,
for
Family
DCYF.
assistant.
yeah,
The
DCY.
family assistance workers.
They put in a
Appropriated more workers. I think it's more than 12. I think it's 26 or
Is it
something
20?
like
Yeah,
that.
I thought it was more
think
than
it's
that
26.
too.
Okay,
I thought it was
very
more.
good, but
And they
that's-
did an ombudsman also
Yeah, we
for
did an
DCY.
ombudsman.
Yeah.
Isn't that terrible? They have to get somebody to fight for them through the
Well,
bureaucracy.
that came out of
or-
the Child Abuse Fatalities Committee
Yeah,
or
well,
Commission.
what they're saying is that you couldn't depend on the line of command to take care of the problems.
That's correct.
So when you do that, you know, I've had to work through some ombudsmans on the federal level,
Yeah.
and some of them are very good, but they sometimes can't get the job done either because of
We've made
bureaucracy.
some positive steps, and you know, we're at the point right now that we just have to basically wait and see what the results are of the steps we're taking. But I think that everything is positive.
Good, good. Well, we're going to see what happens during the year. I guess you're going to have some interesting committee meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Going to call them on the carpet and see if they are getting things done the way they should.
Well, they'll come into oversight, and they'll make their reports. They'll come into child abuse fatalities, and they'll make their reports there, so we'll see what the progress is. And if it's not enough, we'll be right on them.
Well, you have a lot of different points that you have to keep track of. It's not just one or two departments. It seems like it's
No,
almost
it's multiple departments.
multiple, yeah, almost all of them, I assume.
Well, DHHS is made up of what, I don't know, 150 different departments or something like that.
I know it's
It's
a
a
lot.
huge number.
There's quite a few, but when you look at the ombudsman also, they can be an advocate,
Yes.
not just for the citizens, but also for DHHS and DCYF. So there's that side of the coin too. I just look at it as a proactive. I look at it as a win-win.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, that's what we want. We want an efficient operation.
That's the point we're at now. Like I say, we'll just have to see as it goes along. We'll have to see what's working and what's not. And we'll have to make corrections.
Is the department too big to be managed?
Of course it is. It's always been too big. 47%.
I don't know if you agree with that, Marielle.
I don't know. It's so huge. You wonder the hierarchy. I don't know how the chart works. You know, it all comes up to one particular person who sits at the top and then spreads it out. But you ask a really good question. Is it too much?
Yeah.
And how much is too much? I don't know the answer. But maybe the ombudsman is going to give us some insight in some different perspectives. So maybe that question, which is a very viable question, can be answered.
Well,
Let me give you some numbers.
Okay.
The budget is $11 billion, $11.3 billion. DHHS is responsible for $5.7 billion. Billion with a B.
Yeah.
That's too big for one department.
Well, on the state level, that's perhaps. I mean, you have lots of. Well, I can't use the federal thing as an example because
No, you
they're all
can't.
messed up too. But I've heard the comment that there's so much interrelationship within the different departments that to break them apart would, I don't know, break communications that are necessary.
But there's so much duplicity. And we found in the audit that was done locally last year,
Yeah.
we found that there are departments that simply don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
They don't want each other to know they're both doing the same thing. So there's just too much duplicity, and that's a waste of money.
And every department gets money from federal government, and they're not doing any kind of oversight either,
No.
because they just throw money at the problem.
Maybe you look
Again,
at
accountability.
Well,
maybe you look at the infrastructure, you look at the administration, as opposed to all the people, all the processes, all the supports and services. Administratively, I would assume that paperwork can be systemic. That can just be the same, no matter the department. And maybe that's what they need to do. What about the computer system?
I was going to say,
You
I think
know.
that's what they don't have them talking to one another.
Well,
And it needs to
DCYF,
be.
that was the biggest problem we found with them. They had no computers. They were doing everything by pencil and paper. The caseworker was at the home writing a report that she then had to take back, he or she had to then take back to the office and put into the computer, to the one computer. So we appropriated computers to all of them. Now they can go to the home, put it in a computer, and it's in the system.
That's like when you go to your doctor.
Yeah.
They have a laptop or
Yeah.
they have something right there, their iPad, and you just put it in and it goes into the main computer, and then whoever can access it.
That's
if you see a
correct.
physical therapist, if you see a orthopedic specialist, whatever, they're there, your records are accessible. And that makes for streamlined, supports. And they have current information on you. So it's accurate.
We also now
need
have
to
coverage over the weekend. Before DCYF at 4:30 Friday afternoon, that was the end of DCYF. The police department didn't get a report from DCYF until sometimes Tuesday morning of the next week because there was no coverage over the weekend. So now we have coverage over the weekend.
And it's funny because I was the state president for the New Hampshire Foster and Adoptive Parent Association back in the mid-90s to 2000. And one of the things that we were asking for back then was coverage over the weekend and at night, because Friday night always seemed to be when the crisis would happen.
Of course.
And
Sure.
we wanted them to carry beeper. We wanted them to carry something so it could be, supportive. I mean, you're out there by yourself sometimes in a major situation. And so it's interesting to me that in 2017 it finally got accomplished. But I'm talking back in the 1990s when the question
Sure.
came up. And I know it came up.
But you wanted them to carry beepers. When we got into this, they didn't even have people, much less beepers. There was no one on duty.
No, that's what we wanted. We wanted somebody to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were on call, then if something happened, they were on call. And now there's going to be somebody on call. That's
That's
the
right.
point. That's the point.
That's correct.
It took forever.
It's a
Why?
shame.
And the reason the change was difficult was because it was contractual. The people they had under their contract, they worked certain hours, and at 4:30 on Friday afternoon, that was the end of the contract. They had no coverage in the contract from Friday afternoon to Monday morning. So there had to be a contractual change just to accomplish this, something that should have been done all along.
Well, anyway, let's hope that we'll come back to you in 6 months, and you can tell us all the glorious
See what
things that
happened?
worked out right.
I hope in 6 months when we come back, we have nothing to report out of the ordinary.
Okay, everything's smooth.
That's
Everything is smooth.
Well, I've heard too that the two new department heads, Charlie Arlinghouse and Frank
Frank Edelblue?
Edelbluth, are getting a consultant in to help them reorganize their departments. I don't know if that's going to extend to yours or whether you can benefit by it, but you might want to look into that. What do you think about having an outside group like that come in?
You know who they should
I
have
think
come
that's
in?
what we need.
A time and efficiency expert should come in and see what you're doing with your time and how much you're doing. Because you know what I think you're going to find? You're going to find a couple things. One, you're going to find too much work per person and not enough time.
That's definite.
And there'll also be some duplication of effort. I think both of those things are going to be found, but I really do think everybody should have to sit and have, I mean, I did it personally in a place where I worked. We had time and efficiency people come in. It's very interesting what they found. I was doing the job for 3, but that was okay.
Yeah. we found with DCYF that the caseworkers had as many as 65 cases. That's overwhelming. They should not have over 10 or 12. With these new 26 people, hopefully that's going to change.
Good. And with computers.
And with computers.
Writing things.
Don't forget the computers.
I know I have a constituent nearby who has to deal with the HHS for getting licenses for occupational therapists. They do it all by hand on paper.
Yeah.
And she can't, get them to get to the computer. How come they're still doing it by paper on that when other departments do it all by computer? What happened to our one-stop shop? You remember that, Don?
Yeah. I remember it very well.
Well, that's the same thing here. You got to use the computer.
Door.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well, anyway, we can see what happens, but push on it and see, see what happens at the Department of Education. Because
we're determined. We're going to stick with it. We're going to make changes.
Good.
We're going to make changes.
We're making
And
positive
in the end, it's
changes.
going to be up to the voters. If they continue to have us there, we'll make changes.
Okay, all right.
And we'll keep making positive ones. I think the budget made some positive ones.
I do too.
I don't think it did it all. I don't think it met it all.
But
Nothing's perfect, but it did. It increased the DD wait list by $57 million, or the DD population, I should
And
say.
everybody's
the
gonna get
money's
some
for
help,
that.
yeah.
Everyone's going to. It isn't going to solve every problem. There's still going to be people who need services, but it's more than what was. Same with mental health. Same with the opioid crisis. It's more. Is it all? No, but it's more. It's not less.
The simple thing with a budget is you address all of your needs first, and then you look at your wants. That's the simple process of a budget.
Right.
If you can take care of your needs and you have a little money left, take care of your wants. If you don't have any money left, you can't take care of your wants. It's
Okay.
that simple.
Well, you got to follow up, make sure you know which are which.
Well, and HHS, I will say this in their defense, have mostly needs.
That's a true statement. That's very true.
But we need, as you say, time and efficiency.
The problem with HHS is there's just too much administration.
Yeah.
HHS has to be cut from the top, not the bottom. The people at the bottom are doing a good job. There are too many supervisors supervising supervisors that supervise supervisors. And that's what has to be done away with.
We'll remember that mantra.
I don't know if we can say it again, but we'll remember it.
I can say it again. I've said it enough.
You just have to count how many levels he goes through. Well, thank you very much for your time. And it's going to be interesting to watch what the next session comes about, the new laws that we propose in the fall, and what operations we have in front of us starting in January. And hopefully we make it a little bit smoother than we had this year.
And we didn't even get to talk about our aircraft bill.
Oh,
How that's going to help Nashua. We can do a whole show on that next time.
all right. We'll do
See?
that then.
Yeah.
Good enough, Don. Thank you, Mary Ellen. Very
Thank you
good.
for having
Thank you,
me.
Carl.
Thank you.
Pleasure as usual.
We'll see you next time.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.